Hey everyone! This has been a long time since I've done an update, but a lot's been going on, so we're going to catch everybody up here, and we're going to take you along for finishing up a couple last brackets. I guess the biggest change is that the subframe ended up coming out again out of the front end here, and we've been marking for clearances to be cut for a turbo to sit later, and have kind of been pushing some of this firewall back, massaging it with a hammer. And that is to create some clearance for our cam position sensors. But the subframe is back out. The front subframe ended up coming out one last time in order to fully weld in this bottom angle piece, because welding upside down wasn't going so well. So now this is angled, angled ironed, and then has some caps put on the end, and it's all been seam sealered up and sprayed with primer, so we'll brush some orange back onto it when it's back on the car. The sway bar had to be spaced down and out a little bit in order for everything to kind of clear with the front of the engine. The pulley was sitting right where the sway bar needed to go. So we made these spacer boxes that have bolts welded into them, and these bolts allow the sway bar to just be moved down and still maintain the correct angle with the suspension there. So those are new. The advantage of doing the box style sway bar relocation is we were able to weld nuts in, and then this is our lower radiator support now. Excuse the goober welding. I did get a new welder as well, so we're finally on a gas setup instead of just flux core, which is pretty sweet, but we're still kind of learning how to fill everything in with that and get the settings right. So some of the welds are a little goobery, but they're all strong enough. And we have a set of these. Radiator sits here, and then we have a front set of plates that'll actually bolt to here, and those are ones we'll be finishing up a little later. Our fancy pants transmission crossmember has come out again for final painting and maybe a little bit of straightening, but everything seems to be working on it pretty well. It seems to be holding up all right, and it does have one cross member over here, and this cross member has to get finish welded, so we're going to be doing that. We ended up cutting it a little more shallow because it would be the lowest point on the car otherwise. There's also one big OEM part that we were missing, and we forgot we were missing it until we tried to put the radiator all in, and that is the radiator fan assembly. So this is out of another 04 RX8. I was able to pick it up locally from a junkyard, and we'll be cleaning this up, and I'm sure I'll try and film as much as I can, cleaning some of this up, testing it, making sure it's all good to go. It has a warranty, so that's pretty cool. Another new development is that I got another set of lights out of another RX8 locally again. Some guy popped up and was saying he was parting one out. While these headlights are not, well, this one's pretty perfect. This one's not perfect. It does have a little bit of the sun hazing going on, but these two are miles better than the headlights that I have. So we're going to be running these, I'm pretty sure. They were working when he pulled them out. We just have to try and clean this up, but these have never been opened. So everything should go a lot smoother with these than what I had before, and I'm pretty excited about it. Plus, you basically gave me these for free, and these are in pretty good shape. The engine and transmission have come out for hopefully the last time, and one note is about this slave cylinder right there. I was given a second slave cylinder by another Jordan who did a swap like this, and we had the advantage of taking one of them apart, that means. And I'm taking it apart because from what Jeremiah said with bleeding these suckers is that they're very difficult to do, but there was a company at one point who made a modified slave cylinder that where they flattened, come on, focus. They flattened this spot here and actually drilled in to the reservoir area and then put a bleed line on it. So we were going to try that with one of them since we had two, and we disassembled it without any trauma to the slave cylinder, and it seems like we'll be able to give that a go. My 2.4 liter Ecotech of choice has come out of the car, and we gave it a nice bath. It actually turned out pretty good. So the pan's gonna get cleaned up, and then the windage plate has to go back in, and then Nick actually has the top cover or the valve cover. Valve cover is gonna be polished. He wanted to do that, so he took it home and he's working on it. And then once that's back, we'll start on to electrical with the engine and start figuring out what we're all going to be doing. This may look like a jumbled mess of wires, and it kind of is at the moment, but we did learn a few things that will be helpful for getting that ECU and that harness on that engine and getting it running in some sort of period of time under a year. So that'll be good. It shouldn't take that long. I was able to pick up at the bottom of this a fuse box out of a Solstice, so that actually has the engine harness connect right into it, and we'll probably end up running the rest of the car right off of this. And I have some documentation with all the part numbers and everything for the connectors, so it should be pretty straightforward, and we'll keep you in the loop as developments happen with all of this. But looks like it won't be too bad to get this thing running. The rear rotors that I have were also cleaned up and have been installed, so we're pretty much ready to start torquing everything down back here. We'll put some weight on the car, or load this shock up a little bit, then torque everything as needed. Oh, and I almost forgot. It took a couple weeks to get it all figured out, but I did get a drive shaft made, so that is very exciting. We have here a 3-inch drawn over mandrel main shaft, I guess we'll call it, and had my U-joint yoke welded in at a local shop, and they paired it to the RX8 diff flange. And then what we ended up doing was going with a weld-in slip yoke, and then the female side of the spline is actually where the U-joint is. So the U-joint attaches into this, and then this is able to compress for installation. I don't anticipate it traveling at all while the car is in motion, but in case it wants to, we have that. And then we have our flange from a Jag, and I'll show you in a second why we used a flange from a Jag. Because it had a nice pattern that would fit inside of the current CV pattern. I'll show you closer up. So this is the magic piece that will allow my Jag flange to bolt to where a CV joint normally would go on the Solstice transmission. What we have is the 6 bolts countersunk for the CV joint stock location, and then we have the 4 holes that are threaded, and those are threaded for the bolts for the Jag flange. And it wasn't super easy to get there, and here's why. I decided to do the whole thing in CAD so that I could have a machine shop just CNC this entire piece out once they got, well, basically just CNC drill the holes. So in order to do that, I decided to start putting it in CAD right away, measure it all myself, because I didn't have any drawings for the transmission, and I just kind of printed and grabbed prints off of the printer before they were done in various stages until I had figured out this, which is actually the same part as this. And once I had this design kind of figured out that fit in the car, I was able to actually use finite element analysis in SolidWorks to prove out that this would take the torque needed and that it's not going to just completely explode while driving. So looks like we're good to go here, and I'm really excited that it turned out so well. Everything fits great, and we have our drive shaft, which is super exciting, and I was really nervous about doing it for some reason, but we got it done, and that is going to be the heart and soul of this build, I think. Unrelated to the car, but I got this back up and running again for the 3rd time, and it's got new coils now, and I painted the tank. So now it says Honda on this side, and then that Honda logo is mirrored on the other side, so we have the symmetry of the decals, and it's been really fun to rip around on. I didn't really think that I got that much accomplished on the car, but when I laid it all out like that, it actually was quite a bit, so that's cool. I guess we're really making some good progress on it. Sorry I haven't been filming all of it, but sometimes you just gotta get it done. And filming does kind of slow me down a little bit, and especially with the drive shaft, I wanted to just kind of work through it, get it all done as fast as I could with all those prototypes and stuff, and then just get the shaft ordered. And it all turned out great, so really happy with how that turned out. And let's get to these brackets that we need to finish up. Like I mentioned before, we're going to put a bead down finishing off this guy. This is the brace for the power plant frame. And then these are the upper radiator mounts, and we're actually going to just triangulate from about here to somewhere over here with a 1/4 inch rod. so that these, when they're bolted, these are actually like a sandwich plate. I guess we'll explain that. So these go inside of where this would bolt on, and then hang out into the middle, and then we're going to triangulate off of here just because this isn't quite strong enough, or we don't want it to fatigue out. This will be the first day using the new fabricating table. This table is made out of some other tables that were scrap at work in some casters, and it's a little tall. It's about 4 feet tall, so it's about rib height for me, which is seems like it might actually work out all right. So we're going to try it and see how it goes. And repeat. And just like that, we got this cross member welded up, and we got our supports added into the radiator mounts. So next up, we'll be cleaning these off, rounding all our corners, cleaning everything up, and then painting. That'll be, I'm going to take these to a bandsaw in order to do that a little easier and cut the engine mounts down, because that's pretty thick stuff to be cutting here. But yeah, so that'll be it. Thanks for watching, and there will be another update soon, hopefully. I'll film more, I promise.